Joe Biden addresses the nation as issues with the supply chain become more and more evident and threaten to drag his poll numbers even lower. Speaking from the White House, Biden said industry leaders like Walmart, UPS, and FedEx have agreed to expand hours to address supply chain bottlenecks ahead of the Christmas season.
Today, Walmart, our nation's largest retailer, is committing to go all in on moving its products 24/7 from the ports to their stores nationwide. Specifically, Walmart is committing as much as a 50% increase in the use of off-peak hours over the next several weeks. Additionally, FedEx and UPS, two of our nation's biggest freight movers, are committing today to significantly increase the amount of goods they're moving at night.
Biden said he hopes these changes will clear cargo off the docks and move cargo ships to and from their destinations faster. Ever the politician, Biden used the crisis to push his infrastructure plan, saying it's important to focus on the future, not simply current issues such as COVID and worker shortages. Biden also bizarrely appeared to echo President Trump's wildly popular American First agenda, saying he now supports American-made products.
In order to be globally competitive, we need to improve our capacity to make things here in America, while also moving finished products across the country and around the world. We need to think big and bold.
Following his speech, Biden sparked additional outrage by quickly leaving without taking any questions and for turning his back on the press as well as the American people.
Can this administration guarantee that holiday packages will arrive on time?
We are not the Postal Service or UPS or FedEx.
Well, the Biden administration has not taken responsibility for the supply chain disruptions after their efforts to open up those ports in the West Coast, and also some expectations of goods shortages during the Christmas shopping season. Wednesday, Jen Psaki told reporters the White House is working to reduce delivery delays and supply bottlenecks, and that is as some 60 cargo ships are anchored off the port of Los Angeles and Newport, unable to offload.
We cannot guarantee. What we can do is use every lever at the federal government disposal to reduce delays, to ensure that we are addressing bottlenecks in the system, including ports and the need for them to be open longer hours so that goods can arrive. And we can continue to press not only workers and unions, but also companies.
And again, those ports in Los Angeles and Long Beach have been opened now 24 hours a day. And economists say that the bottlenecks are likely to persist at least for 6 months, and they could last until 2023. A provision in the reconciliation bill would require banks to report inflows and outflows of amounts greater than $600 to the IRS. Here's One America's Stefan Kleinhans.
Hidden in the Democrats' reconciliation spending bill is a Biden administration provision that would require banks to report inflows and outflows to the IRS where activity exceeds $600. Democrats say this is a way to crack down on so-called fraud and tax evasion from the super wealthy. But Republicans are saying this is just an attempt for government overreach in everyday American pocketbooks.
And it's bad enough that I already have Jeff Bezos and Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg in my house. Now I'm going to have Uncle Sam sitting in my living room, too. So, again, enough's enough. And we're going to do everything we can from the powers in my office to fight back of this massive expansion of the IRS.
Florida's chief financial officer, Jimmy Patronis, and 23 other state treasurers wrote a letter to Joe Biden and his Secretary of Treasury, Janet Yellen, opposing the plan.
Other state treasurers around the United States feel the exact same way, pointing out this is a massive overreach. This is going to be an incredible burden to all these financial institutions that are dealing with enough struggling with what COVID-19 has done to the economy of the United States. So, trying to execute and implement all this, mind you, is just to be able to harvest more dollars from hardworking taxpayers to pay for a budget project of enormous proportions that nobody wants.
Democrats say this is just a way to monitor what comes in and out of the so-called one-percenters' bank accounts to ensure they're paying their fair share of taxes. Biden's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says high-income individuals don't always disclose their income to the IRS, and this will just be a way to close that loophole.
High-income individuals with opaque sources of income that are not reported to the IRS, there's a lot of tax fraud and cheating that's going on, and all that's involved in this proposal is a few aggregate numbers about bank accounts, the amount that was received in the course of a year, the amount that went out in the course of the year. If somebody reports an income of $10,000 and they had $3 million go out of their checking account, that tells the IRS that's an individual you might audit.
However, critics of the proposal say it will affect more than just the super wealthy.
And this is more overreach by the federal government to try more ways to feed the beast. This is a massive proposed overreach of government to the point where any account over $600 will be monitored and tracked for transactions.
Petronas said he is concerned that this will allow the IRS into everyday Americans' pocketbooks, and added that it is one step closer to socialism.
Where basically if you have a checking account or a bank account with $600 more balance in it, you're going to be targeted. So, I mean, this is what, what I fear, and I talk to those, especially that came from Cuba or Venezuela, where the government owns their checking accounts. I mean, this is one step closer to having full-blown, socialism in the United States taking over our own bank accounts. It's really disappointing that it's come to this.
Stefan Kleinkens, One American News, Tallahassee, Florida.
Montana Republican introduces a bill to bring immigration authority back to Congress and out of Biden's hands. In a statement on Wednesday, Congressman Matt Rosendale announced his Secure America Act in response to, quote, mass resettlement of unvetted Afghan refugees and the crisis at the border, unquote. The legislation is geared toward reclaiming congressional authority over the U.S. immigration system, which has been seized by the executive branch. Rosendale says the current immigration system is a recipe for, quote, disaster and needs to be addressed immediately. Well, the DHS issues a baffling new directive as the southern border continues to generate bad news for the administration. Here's One America's Chanel Briand with more.
Amid a border crisis that spirals out of control daily, the Biden administration seems determined to make it worse. Tuesday, Biden's DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas ordered the agency to end workside policies that too often would mass deport illegal workers. The memo makes clear the unfair labor market is not the fault of illegal workers, but the fault of American employers. Biden's administration goes on to order DHS to protect illegal workers from being deported, relabeling such workers as non-citizen victims, victims in need of shielding from, quote, unscrupulous employers. This policy memo comes just one day before leaked DHS documents exposed the Biden administration's policy of releasing more than 160,000 illegal aliens with little to no supervision into the U.S. since March. At least 30,000 of these illegals have been released into the U.S. under a special work permit since August. This added prosecutorial lens on U.S. employers comes at a time when record high level of workers are quitting the workspace over Biden's vaccine mandates and higher paid prospects of simply going home and collecting unemployment. These same employers also face Carter-era gas hikes, inflation, and supply chain emergencies, all problems forecast to grow worse in the coming months. Meanwhile, Republicans point out the Biden administration is only making the immigration crisis worse, with October set to ring in all-time record-high border crossing numbers.
I have heard for months people in the press say, well, this is the highest number of people illegally crossing the border in the last 21 years. That's about to be updated, because when the numbers come in the next couple of days for September, we will exceed the number from 21 years ago. And this will be a record number of individuals that have crossed our southern border. For some strange reason, people still seem to say this is some kind of cyclical event. This is a problem based simply on the policy changes that happened in January the 20th of this year.
The Biden administration insists such complaints are simply theater, calling on Republicans to engage in meaningful dialogue over the border crisis. A statement that ignores the fact that 26 governors signed a letter in September begging the Biden White House for a meeting to discuss tangible ways to resolve the border crisis, a letter that to date has gone ignored by the Biden administration. Chanel Rion, One America News, the White House.